My parents didn't bother booking a room for me on our family trip. My sister smirked and said, "We reserved rooms for me, my husband, and my kid. We're the real family." I stayed calm and replied, "Then I'll just leave," before walking out. A few hours later, after ignoring countless calls from them, something happened that none of us saw coming. "They didn't book a room for me on our family trip," my sister sneered. "We reserved rooms for me, my husband, and our child. We're the real family." Calmly I replied, "Then I'll leave," and walked out. Hours later, after ignoring dozens of their calls, something unexpected happened. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up in my Chicago apartment, that familiar anxiety settling in. Another year, another family reunion. This year's gathering was at the Breakers, a fancy resort hotel in Palm Beach, Florida. It was our annual family trip, all expenses paid by my grandfather. Doing a final check of my suitcase, I sighed deeply, looking at my reflection. I'm Helen Walker, 33, a research director at a pharmaceutical company, earning $160,000 a year, living alone in Chicago. I've steadily built my assets through careful investments. Money is important, but dignity is even more so. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind. He's a successful businessman in construction, and I learned everything about managing money from him. Since I was a child, he enthusiastically taught me about investments. He's the only one in the family who truly understands me. In contrast, there's my sister Catherine, a former flight attendant turned full-time housewife. She seems to live a wealthy life with her husband and their 7-year-old daughter. However, this wouldn't be possible without my grandfather's monthly support. Their high mortgage, car loans, and their daughter's private school tuition are all covered by him. Yet, Catherine's social media is full of glamorous posts, new designer bags, expensive dinners, luxurious vacations. She seems obsessed with showing off a life far from reality. My parents, George and Margaret, appear to enjoy a comfortable retirement in Florida, but that too depends on my grandfather's help, their retirement fund planning, the deposit for their upscale retirement home, everything. My parents have always been cold toward me but spoiled my sister. That hasn't changed since childhood. During college, I paid my tuition with scholarships and worked part-time for living expenses. Meanwhile, my sister relied entirely on our parents for everything, from studying abroad to daily costs. The difference still stings. Become someone who can stand on your own 2 feet. That was another of grandfather's sayings I've lived by. I studied and worked hard to become independent. I built my career in pharmaceuticals, grew my assets through investments, and created a life that doesn't need anyone's support. The high-rise apartment overlooking Chicago's skyline was earned by me. Moderate luxury within my means. That's the life I chose. As I lifted my suitcase, my anxiety about this year's Thanksgiving grew stronger. Every year, our family's twisted relationship seemed to worsen. My sister's need to show off, our parents' obvious favoritism, and grandfather's worried looks. In the taxi to the airport, I thought about this year's trip. The Breakers, a fancy 5-star hotel from 1896, with Italian Renaissance architecture and suites costing over $800 a night. The Thanksgiving special dinner was said to be expensive per person. Despite the glamour, our family's reality was fragile and fake. My sister's fancy life, our parents' easy retirement. All were built on grandfather's support, and this year those lies were about to fall apart. Everyone must have sensed it, yet no one dared to speak the truth that awaited us. Through the taxi window, the gentle Florida sunlight streamed in as we drove from Palm Beach International Airport to the Breakers. On Thanksgiving Day, I arrived at the luxury resort in pleasant weather. I was the last to arrive, pulling my navy suitcase. I stepped into the magnificent Italian Renaissance building. My simple but elegant dress had wrinkled slightly on the long flight. The lobby was clean and grand, with fancy chandeliers sparkling above and quiet echoes of footsteps on the marble floor. Other guests were already enjoying their Thanksgiving afternoon. On my way to the front desk, I saw my parents talking quietly in a corner of the lobby. Mother wore what looked like a new resort dress, while father was dressed casually for his age. When our eyes met, they quickly looked away. "Miss Walker, I apologize, but I can't find your reservation," the front desk staff said apologetically, checking the screen repeatedly, their confusion obvious. "I see the reservations for your family members, but..." Just then, the sound of expensive heels approached. I turned to see Catherine walking toward us with a smug look, a designer bag on her arm and a shiny watch. "Oh, Helen finally made it." Her voice dripped with sarcasm. The front desk staff kept checking the system as other guests started to notice us. "How strange that there's no reservation," Catherine said louder, trying to get attention. Her fancy suitcase stood out next to my navy one. "Actually," Catherine stepped closer, a victorious smile on her face, "I only made reservations for our family." Her words hung in the air. With a mocking look, she continued, "A room for me, my husband and daughter, and one for Mom and Dad. Just for the real family, you see." A moment of silence fell. The front desk staff was speechless, and our parents turned even further away. The air around me felt frozen. Taking a slow, deep breath, I said without changing my expression, "I see. Then I'll leave." My voice was calmer than I expected. Readjusting my grip on my suitcase handle, I politely nodded to the front desk staff, took out my phone, and opened the taxi app. "Wait." Catherine's voice rose slightly, but I was already heading for the lobby entrance, feeling the sympathetic look from the front desk. I started walking. My sister, caught off guard, kept her smug expression. Our parents stood awkwardly still. Only the sound of my footsteps echoed through the silent lobby. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the main entrance felt strangely bright. While waiting for the taxi, palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze. The Thanksgiving holiday I was supposed to spend at this fancy resort had ended in just a few minutes. Yet, in that moment, a strange feeling of freedom spread through me. Grandfather's words came back. "Become someone who can stand on your own 2 feet." Now, I felt I truly understood what that meant. During the short wait for the taxi, I looked at the hotel's grand exterior. The classic architecture told a story of over 100 years, decorated lavishly for Thanksgiving. Luxury cars kept arriving, with well-dressed families getting out. Through the lobby glass, I could see my niece Amy in a fancy dress, fidgeting behind her mother. Maybe she was looking for me. Every Thanksgiving I brought her a present. This year I had a pearl hair clip for her, still wrapped in my suitcase. As I got into the taxi that arrived, I told the driver, "Palm Beach International Airport." On my phone, I was already searching for the next flight to Chicago. Even though airfares are expensive during Thanksgiving, it didn't bother me. The emotional energy I'd wasted every year during this season seemed far more costly. Through the rearview mirror, the breakers grew smaller, its shiny appearance seeming to represent our family's fake glamour. And now the first crack had appeared in that facade. I couldn't predict what would happen next, but one thing was certain. There was no going back. The taxi's interior was quiet, a shield from the outside noise. The air conditioning was comfortably cool, and the soft leather seats eased the tension from earlier. Outside the window, Palm Beach's typical resort scenery passed by: neat rows of palm trees, white luxury homes, and glimpses of the sparkling Atlantic. Views that would normally captivate me now felt distant. I took out my phone and dialed my grandfather's number without hesitation. The ringtone before he answered seemed longer than usual. "Helen? What's wrong?" Grandfather's voice was its usual calm. "I have something to report," I began, speaking matter-of-factly. I told him what happened at the hotel without emotion, just the facts. The missing reservation for me, Catherine's words, and how I left. I explained everything in order. On the other end, I could hear grandfather's breathing become a little rough. I could tell he was holding back his anger. I didn't say anything to make him feel sorry for me. "I understand. I'll handle this from here." Grandfather's voice was low and serious. In those few words I sensed what was coming. Soon after hanging up, the calls started flooding in. First, from Catherine, over 10 missed calls in 15 minutes. "Helen, Amy wants to see you. She was looking forward to our annual Thanksgiving. Can't you think about a child's feelings? My friends are coming for dinner tonight. I was planning to post perfect family Thanksgiving pictures on Instagram. Do you know how embarrassing this is to explain?" Catherine's voice became more and more frantic. Between these calls, emails from our parents began arriving. We could have added another room, but as Catherine said, we prioritized the real family. "You're independent now, aren't you?" Mother's email showed years of coldness. "If you can afford it, why not get another room with your salary? It shouldn't be a big deal. Why are you being so emotional?" The following email from father was even more heartless. Catherine has a family, a husband and child. You understand, right? Can't you just quietly put up with it for Thanksgiving? That's always been your problem. Only thinking about yourself, never considering the family. Mother continued in a tone that made me seem like the bad guy. We had everything planned for social media posts. We were supposed to take lovely photos of you and Amy. It's all ruined now. My chest tightened with each message, but these were words I should be used to by now. Since childhood, my sister and I had always been treated this way. As the taxi neared the airport, a new wave of messages came in. Because of your selfishness, Amy is crying. She had been waiting so long to see her aunt. My sister continued, using her daughter as a shield. Behind it, I could only see her vanity and pride. More sarcastic emails arrived from Mother. Poor Catherine. If you knew how worried she is about Amy's future, you wouldn't understand, but children's education costs money. Yet at a time like this, I felt no need to reply. If anything, I was grateful that they had shown their true colors so clearly. Just before reaching the airport, an email arrived from Grandfather. I'm proud of your decision. I understand everything. At those words, my eyes briefly welled up, but not with sadness, rather with a quiet determination, marking the start of a new chapter. My phone kept buzzing with calls. Anxious messages from my sister saying, "Answer the phone right now," and blaming emails from our parents claiming, "Your selfishness is tearing the family apart." But I had reached a place where no one's voice could reach me. Getting out of the taxi, I walked toward the international terminal. While booking my flight to Chicago, I felt a strange sense of freedom. This was the moment I was freed from the fake real family. About 30 minutes after boarding the plane to Chicago, a new email arrived from Grandfather. All family members were copied. The following is my final decision to be announced. The email began in Grandfather's typically dignified style. Today on Thanksgiving, an incident occurred that severely damaged our family's dignity. The cruel treatment of Helen is an insult to the Walker family name and cannot be tolerated under any circumstances. Effective immediately, I am freezing all financial support to George, Margaret, and Catherine. I must remind you that your luxurious lifestyles are entirely dependent on my support. Those who have lost sight of family's essence, drowning in vanity and pretense, no longer qualify for such privilege. Just as I finished reading that part, calls from my sister started coming in. Her panic was clear from how often she was calling. "Helen, please answer the phone. Convince Grandpa." Voicemail messages recorded my sister's panicked voice. It was clear her life would be impossible without the monthly payments. All her expenses were based on Grandfather's support. Emails from our parents also flooded in. Their earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by desperate pleas. "Helen, this is about our retirement. Could you please talk to your grandfather again? The $150,000 deposit for their fancy retirement home would be lost, and their medical insurance help would stop." Our parents seemed terrified as their comfortable retirement fell apart instantly. "Do something, Helen. Listen, if it's you, he'll listen." Mother's email contained unfamiliar words of apology. "I'm sorry for saying such terrible things earlier, but this is a family crisis." I quietly turned off my phone. A vast sea of clouds spread outside the window. The perfect family Thanksgiving photos that had been posted on social media every year would not be uploaded this year for Catherine. For her, that might be an even bigger blow than the money. The plane flew steadily toward Chicago without any bumps. The passenger next to me seemed to be thinking about Thanksgiving dinner, looking at recipes on their phone. Normally, at this time, I would have been giving Amy her present in the hotel lounge. After landing, when I connected to my home Wi-Fi in Chicago, there were over 100 unread messages. Most were from my sister, their content becoming more and more frantic. What am I supposed to do? I won't be able to pay the loans. What about Amy's school fees? Emails from our parents had also become more serious. We might not get the retirement home deposit back. What are we supposed to do now? I can't sleep at night thinking about the medical insurance. However, what stood out most was Grandfather's final notice sent to all family members. "This measure is irreversible. Consider it the consequence of your own actions. Any objection to my decision will result in the termination of all support." I calmly read through the incoming messages. Their formerly arrogant attitude had completely changed to desperate pleas. Never before had each family member's true nature been so clearly revealed. Setting down my phone, I made tea in the kitchen. By now, I would normally have been enjoying the hotel's fancy dinner, a Thanksgiving special costing $200 per person. Remembering that amount made me smile slightly. Every year, my sister's family had posted about this lavish dinner on social media. Yet in reality, they struggled to make monthly credit card payments. A new call came in, this time from my sister's husband. Mixed with panic and confusion were words criticizing his wife's spending habits. It seemed their marriage was starting to crack. More specific pleas arrived from our parents. The retirement home won't refund the $150,000 advance payment. Medical insurance will be self-paid from next month. Because of you, our retirement. Following those words was a repeat of defending my sister and blaming me. It was as if they hadn't learned anything. I took a lemon from the fridge and added it to my tea. Tomorrow I would return to work as usual. New research data analysis awaited in the pharmaceutical company project. $160,000 annual salary, steadily growing investment funds, a stable life built by my own efforts. Outside the window, Chicago's night view quietly sparkled. The lights of the high-rise buildings were like stars. Suddenly, I remembered my own credit card statement. Full payment every month, moderate luxury within my means, no debt. Grandfather's favorite saying came back to me. Vanity is for others, savings are for yourself. In this city, I had created my life through my own hard work. As grandfather said, I had become someone who could stand on their own 2 feet, and now I deeply felt that choice had been the right one. From my phone, incoming calls continued to ring, but they were voices that would no longer reach me. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving in early December, Chicago was covered in its first snow. My days were spent focused on new projects at the pharmaceutical company's lab. Amidst the steady routine, my family situation had changed dramatically. The changes were first noticeable on social media. My sister's Instagram, once updated almost daily, had gone silent. Her last post was from the day before Thanksgiving, a photo of her designer bag at a fancy restaurant, tagged with #DreamLifestyle. The comments saying what a wonderful life now seemed sadly ironic. Emails from father finally showed real regret. I'm thinking about our years of spending too much. We spoiled Catherine too much and we were cold to you. I'm sorry. Similar messages arrived from mother. With their medical insurance help gone, they were finally realizing the true cost of healthcare. Our pension alone isn't nearly enough. I finally understand how well we were living. Catherine's situation was even more serious. I got an unexpected call from her husband. I found hidden debts she kept secret. I'm shocked by the credit card bills. We can't keep living like this anymore with grandfather's support suddenly gone. Their fake wealth was quickly falling apart. We're thinking about moving to a cheaper house, looking at public schools for Amy too. Catherine cries every night. His voice was tired and resigned. Their marriage itself seemed to be in trouble. In contrast, my life was peaceful. I arrived at work at 8 a.m. and returned home at 6 p.m. Weekends were spent at investment study groups, reviewing my savings, continuing my life within my means. Just yesterday, I was promoted to team leader for a new research project. My salary was expected to increase. My investments were doing well, with no worries about the future. Vanity brings short-term happiness, savings bring lasting peace. The weight of grandfather's words was now being felt deeply by the entire family. While my parents worried about not having enough money for retirement and my sister struggled with debt, I simply continued my normal life. Over these 2 weeks, the number of emails and calls had greatly decreased. The desperate messages that came daily in the first few days had dropped to once or twice a week. Their tone was also slowly changing to acceptance. Amy will be transferring to public school. She'll take the school bus. I never imagined. My sister's latest email showed signs of facing reality. The dream private school life she had shared on social media would never be posted again. Our parents were also considering moving from their fancy Florida community to a more affordable condo, struggling with medical bills. Their dream of a luxurious retirement had easily crumbled. We've been living with the wrong values for years.